The classification form was straightforward. Every crew member aboard the Vereth's claim received one on their first day. You filled in your species, your homeworld, your prior service record, and then you checked one of three boxes: combat personnel, support personnel, non-combat personnel. The logistics officer, a meticulous Dasani named Quav, processed 211 forms that week. 210 of them were exactly as expected. The 211th gave him pause. He read it twice. Then he checked the box himself. Non-combat personnel. He filed it. He moved on. He would think about that decision for the rest of his career. The Vereth's claim was a Cathari heavy cruiser, 600 meters of reinforced hull, layered weapons arrays, and the kind of gravitational shielding that made other ships nervous just by existing in the same sector. It had a crew of 211. It had a combat record that spanned 14 engagements. It had never, in 9 years of active service, lost a fight. It was also, as of this week, carrying something it had never carried before: a human. His name was listed on the manifest as Specialist Terran Liaison Officer Cale Harrow, attached from the Earth Defense Cooperative. Role: interspecies technical consultation and field assessment, which meant, in practice, that nobody was entirely sure what he was supposed to do. The assignment had come from somewhere above Captain Voren's pay grade. The captain had received it, read it twice, and called his first officer into his quarters. "We have a human coming aboard," he said. First Officer Sheth looked at him. "A what?" "A human. Terran, from the cooperative." "What does it do?" "The order says technical consultation." "Technical consultation of what?" "It doesn't specify." She stared at the order. Should we be concerned? Bourne thought about it. The Galactic Registry lists them as a standard threat. Low to mid capability species, he said. No armor. No natural weapons. Estimated combat viability in the lower third of known species. So no, Bourne agreed. He filed the order. He added a note to logistics, classify the human as non-combat personnel. Better safe than sorry. Cale Harrow arrived via shuttle at 0800. He was shorter than most of the crew, lighter. He had no visible armor plating, no secondary muscle structures, no natural weapons. He was carrying one bag. He walked off the shuttle and looked around the landing bay like he was trying to get his bearings. Logistics Officer Quav met him at the ramp. "Specialist Harrow." "That's me. Welcome aboard the Vereth's claim. I'll show you to your quarters." "Thanks. She's a big ship." 600 meters, one of the largest in the fleet. "Nice." He said it the way someone says nice when they mean it, like a person who appreciates large ships on a genuine level. Quove noted this. Then he noted the bag. "Is that your full kit?" For now. For now? I travel light. I'll source what I need as I go." Quaff processed this. "And what do you need?" Harrow looked at him. He smiled. "That depends entirely on what happens," he said. Quove would also think about that for a while. The crew's reaction to the human was predictable. Curiosity, some polite acknowledgement, a lot of quiet observation from a distance. He was a novelty. He was also very clearly the smallest and least physically imposing creature on the ship. The Ketherate crew ranged from 6 to 8 feet, dense, armored, heavy, built by evolution and intention to be exactly what they look like. The human moved through them like a leaf through a forest, noticeable only by contrast. By the second day, most of the crew had mentally filed him as harmless. Interesting, maybe, but harmless. Combat Specialist Derek was the most direct about it. He was a 7-foot Cathari with 15 years of active service and the physical presence of a small geological event. He passed Harrow in the corridor on day 2. He looked down at him. "You're the human." "I am. The cooperative sent you for technical consultation." "That's what the paperwork says." Derek looked at him for a moment. "You don't carry weapons." "Not visibly. Derek's eyes moved across the human's frame. He saw nothing. At all, Derek said. That you can see, Harrow said pleasantly. Derek stared at him. The human smiled. Derek walked on. He went to his bunkmate that evening. The human said something strange, he said. What did it say? I said it doesn't carry weapons. It said not visibly. A pause. What does that mean? I don't know, Derek said. Does it have concealed weapons? I checked the manifest. He declared nothing. So he was bluffing. Derek thought about it. Maybe, he said. He didn't sound certain. Day 4 brought the first incident. Not combat, not an emergency, just something small, a maintenance problem in the secondary engine coupling. The coupling regulated power distribution to the starboard weapons array. It had developed a fault, a resonance frequency buildup that was degrading the power feed. The engineering team had been working on it for 6 hours. They had replaced 2 components. The fault persisted. Chief Engineer Meth was staring at the diagnostic readout with an expression that suggested she was personally offended by the problem's existence. The human walked into the engine bay. Nobody had called him, he just walked in. He looked at the diagnostic display over Meth's shoulder. She noticed him and frowned. What are you doing here? I heard there was a coupling issue. You heard. The ship makes different sounds when something's wrong. Meth stared at him. You heard a fault through the hull. Through the deck plating, actually. Different resonance pattern from normal. What's the frequency differential? She turned back to her display. 0.7 oscillation variance in the secondary feed. And you've replaced the coupling already, twice. Are the replacement units from the same manufacturing batch? A pause. She turned back to him. How did you batch specific micro-tolerances? Same defect, different unit. You'd keep replacing it with the same problem. He looked at the coupling housing. Can I see the physical junction? She hesitated. Then she stepped aside. He crouched down. He looked at the junction for a long time. He ran one finger along the edge of the housing. He straightened up. Your mounting bracket has a hairline stress fracture. The vibration from the fracture is feeding into the coupling and creating the resonance. Replace the bracket, and the coupling will stabilize. Meth looked at the bracket. She ran her own diagnostic. It came back clean. The diagnostic shows no fracture. The diagnostic is reading electrical continuity. The fracture is mechanical. You'd need a physical inspection. She looked at the bracket. She picked up a manual inspection tool. She ran it along the bracket's surface. She found the fracture. It was small, very small, something the standard diagnostic would miss. She looked at the human. How did you know? Sound pattern, he said. A loose mounting bracket vibrates at a specific frequency under power load. I've heard it before. Where? A patrol ship on the Bashari run. We had the same issue. We were 6 hours from station and our weapons array went offline during a pirate engagement. What did you do? Fix the bracket, he said. Under fire, with what we had. Meth looked at him for a long moment. You fixed a weapons array under active engagement. The patch held long enough. Long enough for what? For us to win, he said. He left the engine bay. Meth stood there. She looked at the fracture. She looked at the door. She pulled up the crew manifest on her tablet. She found Harrow's classification. Non-combat personnel. She stared at that for a moment. Then she went back to work. She replaced the bracket. The coupling stabilized immediately. The conversation with Captain Vaughan happened on day 6. Meth requested a private meeting. She told him about the bracket. She told him about the frequency pattern. She told him about the Vishari patrol ship. The captain listened. Technical capability, he said. That's what the cooperative sent him for. Sir, he heard the fault through the deck plating. Enhanced hearing. I looked up the registry file. Humans have standard hearing capability, mid-range for known species. Then how? He paid attention, Meth said. He knew what the normal sounds were, so he noticed when they changed. Vorn thought about that. That's not a special ability, he said. No, sir, it's a habit. She paused. Captain, I've been in engineering for 20 years. I've never had someone I didn't call walk into my bay and find a fault I missed. Vorn was quiet. He's filed as non-combat, he said. Yes, sir. I saw that. That classification came from my office. Yes, sir. A pause. Your recommendation? I don't have one, sir, Meth said carefully. I just thought you should know. Vorn nodded. He looked at the manifest. Non-combat personnel. He left it there. For now. Day 9. The mission briefing. The Varath's claim had been tasked with intercepting a Vorath-class raider vessel suspected of operating in the Karath shipping lanes. Standard operation. The cruiser had handled 6 similar interdictions. The briefing was routine. Derek ran it in the tactical bay. Charts. Projected intercept points. Weapons loadout. Boarding protocols if required. The human was not in the briefing. He was classified non-combat. Non-combat personnel were not included in tactical briefings. That was standard protocol. Darek ran through the briefing. He answered questions. He dismissed the team. He walked out of the tactical bay. The human was in the corridor. How did the interdiction go on the Karath run 4 months ago? Harrow asked. Derek stopped. How do you know about the Karath run? Ship's log is accessible to all crew. Derek stared at him. You read the ship's log. The last 3 years of it. Why? I like to know where I am, Harrow said. How did the interdiction go? Derek studied him. Standard engagement. Raider attempted to flee. We cut off the route. They went for the debris field near the Karath relay station. Yes. The Raider class. Vorath pattern. Yes. They like tight spaces, Harrow said. A Vorath-class raider was designed for it. Low-profile hull, reactive thrusters on all 6 faces. In a debris field, they can change orientation faster than a ship this size can track. Darek looked at him. You know Vorath-class raiders. I've seen 3 of them operate. 1 engagement, 2 intelligence intercepts. You were in an engagement against a Vorath class. Yes. As what? A pause. As the person who figured out how to stop it, Harrow said. Derek stared at him. You're classified non-combat. I know. You're not cleared for tactical planning. I know that too. Harrow paused. I'm not planning anything. I'm just having a conversation in a corridor. He walked away. Derek stood there. He looked at the corridor. He thought about the debris field near the Karath relay station. He thought about Vorath-class raiders and tight spaces. He went back into the tactical bay. He pulled up the last engagement log. He read through it. He found the part about the debris field. He sat there for a while. Then he found Harrow in the mess hall. Sit down, Derek said. I'm already sitting. Don't be difficult. I'm eating. Eat and talk. The human looked at his food, then at Derek. Vorath-class raider, Derek said. What did you do? Can I ask why you're asking? Because if this raider uses the relay station debris field, I don't have a clean solution. I know. I read the log. Then tell me. The human ate a bite of something. He set down his fork. A Vorath class in a debris field is fast and unpredictable, he said. You can't track it directly. The orientation changes are too quick. Agreed. So you don't track the ship. Then what do you track? You track the debris, Harrow said. Everything in the field shifts when a ship moves through it. If you model the debris movement, you can predict where the ship will be 2 seconds ahead of where it is. Derek was quiet. 2 seconds isn't much. It's enough to position a blocking element. You don't have to hit the ship. You just have to be where it's going, Harrow confirmed. Derek thought about this. That's not a standard targeting solution. No, standard solutions don't work on Vorath class and debris. How did you figure this out? The human picked up his fork again. The hard way, he said. Day 11, the intercept. The raider was exactly where the projections said it would be. It ran exactly as expected. It ran for the debris field near the Kareth relay station, exactly as Derek had considered. Vorn watched the tactical display from the command deck. The raider was fast. The debris field, standard pursuit pattern, said the tactical officer. Hold, Derek said. Vorn looked at him. Hold. Give me 30 seconds, Captain. Vorn looked at the display. The raider was in the debris field now. Orientation changing. Fast. Unpredictable. Like a hand moving under a blanket. You could see the blanket moving. You could not see the hand. Derek. 20 seconds, Captain. Derek was looking at the debris movement. Not the ship. The debris. He watched the field shift. He watched the patterns. He watched the way the scatter moved when something moved through it. He built a model in his head. Heading 274, intercept in 9 seconds, he said. The helmsman looked at him. Sir, the ship isn't at 27. It will be, Derek said. Go. The helmsman looked at Vorn. Vorn made a decision. Go, he said. The Verith's claim moved. It moved to a coordinate that currently contained nothing but empty space. 7 seconds passed. The raider emerged from the debris field at heading 274. It came out directly in front of the cruiser's forward array, with nowhere to go. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then the tactical officer said something that roughly translated to a sound of pure disbelief. Hailing the raider, Vorn said. The raider surrendered without further engagement. The debrief was short, efficient. Vorn asked one question. He asked it in his ready room, with Derek and Sheth present. The debris field tracking, where did that come from? Derek was quiet for a moment. A conversation in a corridor, he said. Vorn looked at him. With whom? Our non-combat personnel, sir. A long silence. Harrow. Yes, sir. Another silence. He told you how to track a Vorath class in a debris field. Yes, sir. Over dinner. He was eating, yes, sir. Vorn leaned back. He put both hands on his desk. He looked at the ceiling. Why does a non-combat personnel liaison officer know how to track a Vorath-class raider in a debris field? He said he learned it the hard way, sir. That's not an answer. No, sir, but it's what he said. Vorn looked at Sheth. Sheth shrugged. A very Cathari shrug that communicated extensive uncertainty. Get him in here, Vorn said. Harrow sat across from the captain. He sat the way he always sat. Relaxed, not careless. Relaxed in the way that things are relaxed when they're comfortable in any situation. Vorn studied him. You gave Commander Derek a tactical solution for the interdiction. I had a conversation in a corridor, sir. That conversation won us the engagement. Commander Derek won the engagement, sir. He made the call. Based on your information. Based on his judgment, sir. I just provided context. Vorn looked at him. You are classified as non-combat personnel. Yes, sir. That classification was based on the registry assessment of Terran physical and combat capability. I know. Are you combat capable, specialist? A pause, not a hesitant pause. A considered one. Define combat capable, sir. Can you fight? Depends on the fight. Can you use a weapon? Yes. Which ones? Most of them, sir. Vorn put both hands flat on his desk. Specialist, I am going to ask you a direct question, and I would appreciate a direct answer. Of course, sir. What exactly are you? The human looked at him. Something moved in his expression. Not amusement, not quite. Something quieter, like a person who had been waiting for someone to ask the right question. I'm a technical liaison officer, sir, he said. That's what the paperwork says. And what does the paperwork not say? A pause. Before the cooperative assigned me to interspecies liaison work, Harrow said, I spent 4 years in the cooperative's Special Frontier Operations Group. Silence. Special Operations, Vorn said. Yes, sir. Doing what? Whatever needed doing, sir, in places where standard military assets weren't available or weren't appropriate. Such as, another pause, Bashiri Station, Karoth Sector, the outer relay posts, a few places that don't have official names because they're not officially on any maps. Vorn and Sheth exchanged a look, and you were sent here as a technical liaison officer. The cooperative felt my skill set had cross-applicable value in a multi-species operational context, sir. They sent a special operations soldier to do technical consultation. I can do both, sir. Another look between Vorn and Sheth. Why didn't your transferred documents reflect your service record? The human looked at him levelly. That's a question for the cooperative, sir. I was told to report here under the liaison designation. Were you told to hide your background? I was told not to lead with it, sir. Vorn was quiet for a long moment. That's a very careful distinction. Yes, sir. Why would the cooperative not want your background known? Harrow thought about it. My best guess? They didn't want the assignment refused. Why would it be refused? Because when most species in the Reach see a human, they see the registry file. Standard threat. Low to mid capability, not worth a special operations slot on a heavy cruiser. He said it without bitterness, just factually, like reading a weather report. And that assessment is wrong, Bourne said. The human looked at him. It was written 40 years ago, sir, based on a survey that never included anyone who'd actually seen a human under pressure. And under pressure you are. Different, sir. Different how? The human leaned forward slightly. You read the registry file. You know what it says about our physical capability. Low armor density, no natural weapons, standard sensory range. Yes, all of that is accurate. And yet, he paused. What the registry file doesn't cover is what humans do when things go wrong, how we think when the situation is bad, what our bodies do when we're in danger. What do? They get focused, sir. Very focused. The biological response to acute stress in humans is somewhat unusual compared to most known species. Instead of degrading cognitive function, it sharpens it. Instead of increasing error rates, it reduces them. You perform better under stress. We perform differently, sir. I wouldn't always say better, but differently. The things that slow most species down tend to speed us up. Vorn sat with that for a moment. And in your 4 years of special operations, I was in some stressful situations, yes, sir. And you performed. I'm here, sir. 3 words. Simple, not boastful, just a fact. I'm here. Vorn looked at Sheth again. Sheth had the expression of someone who was mentally revising several things simultaneously. I'm reclassifying you, Vorn said. Sir. Combat and tactical consultation. Full briefing access. Understood, sir. I'm also putting a note in the ship's record that the registry classification for Terran personnel is inadequate. That's your decision, sir. It is. Vorn paused. Is there anything else I should know? The human thought about it. Probably, he said. That's not helpful. No, sir, but it's honest. The second incident came on day 17. It was not a standard interdiction. It was not the kind of thing that shows up in tactical projections. It was not the kind of thing anyone plans for. A power surge in the port's secondary reactor, not a small one, a cascade failure, the kind that, if it reached the primary coupling, would take out 40% of the ship's operational systems, including life support for the port crew sections. 370 seconds. That was the engineering team's estimate for how long they had before Cascade. Chief Engineer Meth was in the reactor bay within 60 seconds. She had her best people with her. She worked fast. She was very good. She needed 400 seconds worth of work done in 370. The math was not in her favor. The human walked in at the 2-minute mark. Nobody called him. He came in carrying a bag. The bag he had arrived with on day 1. The bag he said he would source things from as needed. Get out, Meth said without looking up. Non-com. Reclassified, Harrow said. Day 11. She glanced at him. This isn't combat. No, it's engineering. I know the difference. He set the bag down and opened it. He pulled out a thermal insulating wrap, a specific gauge of coupling wire, a circuit isolation tool that Meth hadn't seen in 15 years. She stared at the tool. Where did you get that? Bishari Station surplus. I brought it because these tools are rare and useful, and I knew someone would need one eventually. He looked at the cascade point. What's your primary block? She pointed. He was already moving. What followed was 11 minutes. Meth would write about it in her maintenance log afterward. She would be precise. She was always precise. She wrote, the human worked without instruction at the Cascade Junction. He did not ask what was needed. He assessed the situation and began working immediately. His technique at the isolation point was unorthodox but functional. When I asked where he had learned it, he said he made it up on the spot because the standard method wouldn't work at that temperature gradient. When I pointed out that improvising technique on a live reactor was dangerous, he said everything about the current situation was dangerous, and would I prefer he stop? I said no. He continued. The Cascade was arrested with 42 seconds remaining. The port sections retain life support. I have worked in engineering for 20 years and served on 7 ships. I have never seen anyone do what he did at that coupling. I have also never seen anyone carry a circuit isolation tool from the last generation on a standard crew assignment. He said he brought it because he knew someone would need it eventually. I am going to think about that sentence for a very long time. Captain Vaughan read the maintenance log. He read it in his ready room with a cup of something hot that had gone cold while he was reading. He called Sheth. Read this, he said. Sheth read it. He set it down. He brought tools he expected to need, Sheth said. Yes. He didn't know what ship he was being assigned to. No. He didn't know what missions we'd run. No. He brought those tools anyway. Yes. Sheth was quiet for a moment. That's not preparation, he said. What is it? That's a worldview. Vern thought about that. Pull up everything you can find on Terran Special Operations methodology, he said. Sheth went to the terminal. He searched. He found a research file, an academic paper from a Drell University. 8 years old. He read through it. He was quiet for a while. Captain, what? There's a section here on Terran cognitive approach to hostile environments. Read it. Sheth read. Human special operations personnel exhibit a consistent and documented cognitive pattern distinct from all other known special forces training traditions. Where most species train to respond to known scenarios, human operatives appear to train specifically for unknown scenarios. The emphasis is not on learning the right response to a given situation, but on developing the capacity to find a response to any situation. Interviews with human operatives consistently reveal that they evaluate every environment, every ship, every station they enter in terms of its failure modes. What could go wrong here? What would I need? How would I fix it? This is not a trained behavior in the conventional sense. Multiple operatives described it as automatic, unconscious, simply the way they see the world. Schatz stopped reading. He turned around. "Captain, I heard." He walked onto the ship and immediately started cataloging failure modes and solutions, the bracket, the coupling wire, the isolation tool. He already had the solutions when he arrived, before anything went wrong. A silence. "He doesn't prepare for specific problems," Vorn said slowly. "No, he prepares for the concept of problems." "Yes," Warren stood up. He walked to the window. He looked out at the stars. He thought about a small, lightly armored creature walking onto a heavy cruiser with a bag full of tools nobody thought to bring, carrying solutions to problems that hadn't happened yet, hearing faults through the deck plating, winning interdictions from a corridor conversation over dinner, arresting reactor cascades with improvised technique and a 40-year-old tool. He thought about the registry file. Standard threat, low to mid capability. He thought about 40 years of assumptions, and what those assumptions had missed. Day 22, Gordon called the full senior staff meeting. Combat specialists, department heads, tactical officers. He put one question on the table. If we had to field a boarding action in a confined vessel corridor against an entrenched defensive position, what's our standard approach? The tactical team outlined the standard approach. Heavy frame units first, suppressing fire, breach and clear. It was a solid approach. Derek presented it. Vorn listened. Then he looked at the end of the table, where the human was sitting, because Vorn had invited him. "Specialist. Sir, do you have a different approach?" The table looked at the human, several expressions ranging from politely skeptical to openly doubtful. He was the smallest thing in the room. He was going to offer tactical advice to a table of decorated Cathari combat officers. The human looked at the tactical display. He was quiet for a moment. "Your standard approach works in a straight corridor," he said. "But," Derek said, "but it assumes the defenders have positioned for frontal engagement." He paused. "Has anyone considered the environmental controls?" "The what?" "Life support, atmosphere mix, thermal regulation. A confined vessel in boarding scenario has a closed atmosphere system. If you control that system before breach, you control what the defenders experience before you enter." Silence. "You're suggesting environmental warfare," Derek said. "I'm suggesting that a corridor doesn't have to be straight to be won," Harrow said. "The fight starts before you open the door." The tactical officer, a senior Cathari named Vorak, leaned forward. "Environmental control systems are typically in the rear sections." "Yes. Getting to them means breaching the ship remotely or prior insertion." "Yes. Prior insertion is a one-person job," Vorak said slowly. "Usually. Small profile. Fast. Goes in before the main force." "Yes. That would be a non-combat liaison officer," Harrow suggested. "A beat." Several people at the table made sounds. "You're not non-combat," Vorak said. "No, but I fit the profile for prior insertion." Derek stared at him. "You're volunteering for advanced solo insertion." "If the scenario calls for it. That's the most dangerous role in a boarding action," Warren said quietly. "I know." He looked at the human. The human looked back, patient, waiting. The same way he had looked at every person on this ship since he arrived. Like he had already considered this. Like he had considered everything. "You walked onto this ship with a bag full of solutions," Warren said. "Yes, sir." "You've been cataloging this ship since day one." "Yes, sir." "Its systems, its failure modes, its tactical vulnerabilities, and its strengths, sir." "What are its strengths?" "The crew," Harrow said simply. Vorn was quiet. Sheth was quiet. The table was quiet. "The registry file says your species is standard threat," Vorn said. The registry file is old, sir. What would you put in a new one? The human thought about it, genuinely, for several seconds. I wouldn't write a threat assessment, he said. Why not? Because a threat assessment implies a ceiling, a maximum capability. He paused. I don't think that's the right framework for humans. What's the right framework? Variable, he said. We're variable. We're different under pressure than we are at rest. We're different when something matters than when it doesn't. We're different at the end of a bad situation than at the beginning. How are you different? Better, he said, not boastfully, just factually, the same way he had said everything since he arrived. The room was very quiet. The boarding scenario never happened on that cruise, but the conversation did, and Foreign wrote his own report. It was not to logistics. It was to Galactic Defense Command. It was not short. He wrote about the bracket, the debris field, the reactor coupling, the bag of tools, the prior insertion proposal. He wrote about a registry file that was 40 years old and had been written by people who had never seen a human at work. He wrote about the difference between what something looks like and what it actually is. He wrote the report carefully. He wrote it because he thought it was important. He was right. The last paragraph read, I wish to formally request that the Galactic Defense Council commission a full reassessment of Terran species capability and classification. The current registry designation of standard threat, low to mid capability, is not merely inaccurate. It is dangerously inaccurate. Not because humans are threatening to their allies, but because any adversary relying on that classification when planning against them will be unprepared for what they actually encounter. I speak from observation. This crew now carries one human. He arrived with a bag and a title that told us nothing about what he was. In 22 days, he has heard a fault through the deck, solved an interdiction from a corridor conversation, arrested a reactor cascade with the tool he brought for a problem that hadn't happened yet, and proposed a boarding strategy that my senior tactical officers are still discussing. He did all of this quietly, without being asked, without announcement. If the registry wants an accurate descriptor for what that is, I suggest the following: prepared, adaptive, formidable, in that order, and likely in ways we haven't seen yet. The report landed on the council desk 3 weeks later. It was flagged, it was read, it was passed to the Xenobiology Division, it was passed to the Strategic Assessment Group, it was passed to the office that handled the registry files. A researcher there pulled up the Terran entry. She read the current classification, standard threat, low to mid capability. She looked at Vorn's report. She read it twice. She pulled up the 40-year-old original survey. She read that. She sat for a long time. Then she opened a new document. She typed 3 words at the top. Classification under review. She thought about that for a moment. Then she deleted it. She typed something else. Classification insufficient. She sat back. She looked at the screen. Then she started writing. Aboard the Varath's claim, Specialist Cale Harrow was in the engine bay. Not because anything was wrong, because he had found something. A resonance pattern. Slightly off. Barely detectable. He had heard it through the deck plating that morning. He was down in the bay with his tools, finding the source, not because anyone asked him to, not because it was his job, because he had heard something that didn't sound right, and he didn't leave things that didn't sound right alone. He found it 20 minutes later. A secondary mounting bracket in the starboard coupling array. Microfracture. Just beginning. Not dangerous yet. Not today. Maybe not for weeks. But eventually, he replaced it. He noted it in the maintenance log. He packed his tools. He went to dinner. He ate. He looked at the other crew members. He thought about what else might need attention. He was always thinking about what else might need attention. That was not a strategy. That was not a technique. That was not something the registry file covered. That was just how he saw the world. Every room. Every shit. Every corridor, every system, every situation. What could go wrong here? What would I need? How would I fix it? Already working on the next problem before anyone else knew there was one.